Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to this program this morning. I hope that you're doing well and your car is doing well. A really busy week for us with a shop full of automobiles. And you know, you would think after 47 years in the automotive service business that we would have seen it all, and we have seen a lot, but it continues to amaze me, just the complexities of the automobiles. Particularly, we had a diesel that in the shop this week that was a no crank. And then when you bypass the no crank and it started, it would blow a fuse and then quit running. So really unusual. I'll tell you a little bit about that. If you drive a Ford, you know, it's a F-250 and it was a 6-liter diesel engine, really way outside the box. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part today by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Memorial Day, it's the long weekend kicking off this summer. So is your car ready for road trips? from changing your oil and filter and topping off the fluids to inspecting your vehicle's brake system and replacing old, worn wiper blades, O'Reilly Auto Parts has the thousands of parts and accessories you need at guaranteed low prices. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Your calls, 888-227-2546. When I come back, get ready. I'll take your calls. First in is first up at 227-2546. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you're going to love us. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Recently, we had an 07 F-150 come in with a check engine light and misfires. We determined this engine needed coils and spark plugs, but replacing Ford spark plugs without breaking them off in the cylinder head is not easy. So here's what our team does. We start with the Berryman Products 3-step fuel system maintenance kit from our local O'Reilly Auto Parts. But with the Ford engines, we let the vehicle sit overnight, which softens even the hardest carbon buildup on each spark plug shank. The shank is the part that sticks out into the cylinder and tends to break off. Next morning, we loosen each plug an eighth turn. Pour an ounce of Berryman B12 Chem Tool directly into each plug socket, then proceed to remove every single plug safely. If you own a Ford V8 and are ready to replace your spark plugs, get Berryman Products 3-step fuel system maintenance kit at O'Reilly Auto Parts and follow this procedure. You'll be happy you didn't break any plugs and your truck will run like new. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. An 04 Suburban with 256,000 miles recently came into the shop with poor fuel mileage, rough idling cold, and just bad overall performance. No fault codes, but the fuel trim was incorrect. Sensors checked okay, no vacuum leaks, and the engine seemed to be in good shape. Great time for a bottle of Berryman B60 high mileage fuel system cleaner and conditioner. Berryman B60 features HEST, or high energy solvent technology, an exclusive formula that ultimately helps dissolve fuel residue and carbon deposits to restore lost power, reduce rough idle and hesitation, and improve overall drivability. The owner reported back that the fuel economy had increased and the rough idle smoothed out. Berryman B60 is Berryman's strongest formula available. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information on Berryman B60 and all the great Berryman products. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. John Thielen is in the house. You may, if you are a longtime listener to this program, originally when we started this program in 1991, of course, we didn't have a studio at that time. We went to a local radio station, WCOA, which is our 1370 News Talk. Actually, we're still on that program as we speak. We started on that program years ago and operated, and John Thielen was the operator. I'll never forget the first show. You remember John? JT? So folks, you can call in and say hello to JT when you do at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. So we kicked off this program, and I don't know if you've ever been behind a mic or not. What's more important, if you've ever been behind a mic with a headset on. And if you're in the radio broadcast of any kind, one of the things that you absolutely cannot think straight is when you have echo. And echo is caused by When I speak, you hear my words, and when I speak, I hear my words at the same time. However, if my broadcast goes out to Westwood One, which it does in New York, and then for some reason the board is not set right and it comes back to me, there's maybe a 15, 20, how many, 7 second? Oh, there's a delay there. And I will tell you what you actually hear. What you actually hear is what you actually hear, and what you actually hear. It's so difficult. You cannot think, and you know what's going on. You say, "I know that I can do this. I know I can do this," and your mind plays really weird tricks on you, and you cannot possibly think straight. And that happens because for, I don't know, JT, we had so many years that we had where we went to a local radio station. And the challenge with that was setting up the ISDN line and connections to, at that time, ABC satellite services. And the bottom line, ISDN was way complicated. Oh, too much complicated back then. And we finally learned how to make that work. And it was a little difficult to go to a radio station on Friday night and set up for Saturday. So ultimately, after several years of dealing with that, like 5 years, we decided we had to build a studio. So here we have this beautiful acoustic system studio that's really way cool, folks. It's a place to be if a hurricane ever comes back to the Gulf Coast. The floor weighs 10,000 pounds, and the walls are like each panel 275 pounds a piece. And it's off grade, so any vibrations or road noise or what have you, I don't hear it. I can sometimes, maybe if a loud motorcycle were to go beside the building adjacent to us, I might could feel a little rumble, but you'd never hear it. And the bottom line, it just makes for a great communication between you and me. So that's what it's all about, and that's the story. We built this studio, and it's located inside our 15,000 square foot automotive repair shop. So 47 years in automotive repair, 27 years here, and I invite you to participate. If you have a call, feel free to give us a call at 888-227-2546. Let's move right along. Gas prices today. Every region of the country, gas prices have increased, and the average price is $2.87. Now you notice gas prices are creeping up. It will be, it being the sale of cars, very interesting to see what happens when they, and when, not if, but when these gas prices continue to go up. And to that end, what we're going to see maybe some trailing off of SUVs and large trucks. And ironically, Ford recently announced that they were going to cut back or kill almost all of their automobile lines and have just one basic vehicle for the global sale, and then still stay into that. Let's see, the Mustang, yeah, for sure, because that's the real deal. And then also they were going to sell the trucks and SUVs. Of course, that's based on the existing profits. So I see that we have a call. We're going to take a call here soon. 888-227-2546 is the number for you to get in. Gas prices, $2.87. Listen to this. West Coast, $3.40.50. So at $3.40.50, folks, that's a lot of money, and that's inching closer to that $4. So if you think about it, you know, we've sort of had a pretty good ride in the last years or so. So let's take a call here from, I see that Dave Vanderlyke is on. So let's take that call. Dave, good morning and welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Hey, good morning, Bobby. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you know, it's automobiles can be perplexing, and I will tell you, I was telling the story early on about the diesel, and I'll finish that story a little bit later on. Johnny Bars, who is our ASE Master Certified Technician and Shop Foreman, and I, yours truly, worked on this Ford diesel for a long time. But anyway, it's your time. I'll turn it to you. Thanks for calling. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, a couple things. I really appreciate the work you do for not just our vehicles, which I love to tell the story about how you actually took our old '92 Volvo. You actually drove it home just to see what you could figure out about it. The car's running like a top right now, so I really appreciate that. But I also wanted to comment on all the good work you do for the community, and we really appreciated you trying to give your explanation of the national CASA program, which is a court-appointed special advocate program, and we call it guardian ad litem in our area. And just to get that word out to just across the nation it's a huge, big thing, and we really appreciate your willingness to do that.
Well, I am actually privileged to do that, and folks, this gentleman is talking about a guardian ad litem program, the CASA, and that's a court-appointed special advocate. And Dave, just give us the overview of that program, because folks across the nation, and there's so much to know and so much to tell. Perhaps here's what I would really like to do, rather than try, and I'd like for you to give us a 30,000-foot overview, and then perhaps later on, would you be so kind as to join us here inside the studio, and then we can take questions, or at least we can provide more information. But give us a 30,000-foot overview of the CASA program, or the guardian ad litem program.
Well, Bobby, I'd love to come in and have that conversation with you. Essentially, the two programs are mirror programs across the country, and we use a volunteer model, which means we really have to have volunteers to speak for these kids in court. These volunteers are appointed by the court to speak for these children, to monitor these children, make sure they're protected in safe environments. And as they move through the court system, you're there to be their voice in court, essentially. And then the court will take your input into the decision-making process at the end of the time frame, typically a year, when they decide whether the children are going to be able to go back to the parents, or if they're going to have some other permanent placement.
How
so
many?
It's a commitment for the volunteers.
How many kids are involved, say, across the nation in a program like this, Dave?
Gosh, Bobby, that number changes, but the problem is it seems to be growing. But there's over 400,000 across the country I know that are in foster placement alone.
Wow.
And that's a lot.
Well, let's do this. Let me. I would love to have you to come in to the studio in a future program. And folks, this gentleman is not only a customer of ours on a local level, but he's on the board of directors for the Guardian Ad Litem program. That's such an important program, not only in our local community along the Gulf Coast, but also across the nation for kids that really have to be in foster homes and come from starting at the age of, well, I don't know, what's the earliest age, Dave, up until what?
We frequently have newborns, Bobby. It's a very heartbreaking situation.
Wow. So let's do that then. I want to invite you in, and so come and join us. We'll work out the details later. And thank you so much for your kind words about my crew. And I did drive the Volvo home. That was really, really. Well, I may as well tell that right now because it was a lot of fun. So here I am, and I normally drive this new shiny four-door luxury car, right? I pull up into my driveway, and 92 station wagon Volvo. Now, folks, this is not the prettiest Volvo in the world. No flame intended here, Dave. But I will tell you, it's a family. I guess it's a family thing for you. And we managed to make that car safe, and that was the point. Not to restore it, but to make it a safe driver. And I'm proud to say we did do that. And I want to thank you for your call, and I want to thank you for your praise. And I can't wait to get you in the house. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you mind if I bring my recruiter with me, Joan? She is awesome.
No, by all means. There's room for a couple of seats here beside me. And Dave, thank you. Thanks for your call today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, folks, I'll take your calls when I come back. 888-227-2546. Anything to do with cars, tires, or you just name it. I'll be back. Motorrad, a longtime OE supplier, is the leader in automotive thermostats and fuel and oil coolant caps. Motorrad's state-of-the-art quality control and functional testing systems ensure high-quality, long-lasting products. Motorrad delivers world-class product development, providing all the parts and accessories needed to do the job right the first time, every time. Motorrad offers the best coverage of thermostats and closure caps in the world for virtually any vehicle and engine on or off the road. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. Today's vehicles have more than 150 electrical accessories for safety, comfort, and sustainability, 7 times the number 20 years ago. Only AGM batteries are precision engineered to meet this electrical demand by reliably supporting backup cameras, start-stop technology, and many other devices. AGM batteries have longer life than standard flooded batteries and are non-spillable. Acid will not leak during installation or during an accident. When you need a new battery, make sure you ask for an AGM battery to meet today's evolving electrical needs. Folks, as winter comes to an end and spring begins, the Car Care Council reminds you that April is National Car Care Month. Time to get your vehicle ready for spring driving and summer road trips. Here are a few things you could consider. Your vehicle's tires keep you rolling down the proverbial highway. A few simple checks help extend tire life, improve MPG, and keep you safe. Start with tread depth. Insert a penny head first into the lowest point of the tire tread. If you see the top of Abe's head, you need new tires. Correct tire pressure is also important, as under or overinflated tires wear unevenly. Improper wheel alignment may not seem vital, but misalignment can shorten tire life and pose safety issues. What are the signs? Pulling to one side and a loose or vibrating steering wheel are common symptoms. For more great tips, videos, and recommended service schedules, visit carcare.org. And while you're there, order your free copy of the Car Care Guide for your glove box.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for riding along with me this hour. If you have a car question, I'll be glad to take it. Well, actually, JT will take it. John Thielen's in the house today. Hannah, our normal screener, is had to take off. She's not feeling well, so we want to wish Hannah a speedy recovery. And folks, here's a little program that we have. Our friends at Bosch would like for you to share your SOS stories to help celebrate the Father's Day coming up in June. So in honor of Father's Day, this is really kind of cool. Bosch wants to know the craziest phone calls you've received from your kids about their car problems or issues. I personally received a phone call where my daughter was beside the road, headed in the wrong direction in the ditch. And I think she went to sleep, is what I did. But I got a call from the state police, and it was about 50 miles from here. And so I jumped in my car and ran up there, and there she was in the car, and like I was her hero or something. She wasn't hurt. I think she went to sleep and ran off the road and maybe had to, and it lost it, and then it came back around the other way. But just fortunately, the car didn't flip, and she was okay, and she was coming home from Atlanta at that time. But in honor of Father's Day, Bosch wants to know, as I said, the craziest phone calls you've received from your kids about their car problems, as I just mentioned. And then as Father's Day approaches, Bosch would like to know what's the last thing you had to help your child with in regard to their car. Now, this is kind of like father-daughter, father-son. But fatherhood entails many things, and Bosch recognizes that being a resource for car questions is definitely one of them. So what's one of the most memorable car questions your son or daughter asks you? Now, here's what we'd like to do and what we're offering. $100 a Visa card for my favorite SOS story. And you can email that to me, really easy, because it's a car story, right? Right. Car story at carclinicnetwork.com. And folks, Car Clinic Network is all one word. So car story at carclinicnetwork.com. You send that to me. And then Saturday, June 16th, we're going to announce a winner of the $100 Visa card for not the wackiest story, but just something that happened to you, realistic. I can think of several stories. In fact, I can think of another one. Of course, I'm disqualified here. I can't, but my team came in to me one day and said, oh, your daughter Misty came in today and had her oil changed in her car. I said, oh, really? I think I've told this story before. But I said, really, what brought her in to get her oil changed? And I just was so proud that my daughter brought her car in and was proactively having it serviced. I mean, obviously she didn't pay for the service, but to get her to come in and take care of that car. It was an Acura Integra, and it was a really fast car. 4-wheel disc brakes, a super automobile. I bought that car used, had 48,000 miles on it, paid $8,000 for it. Now, the rest of the story goes, when I got home that evening, I said, well, it was terrific that you came in today, and I really think that's really terrific. What made you do that? She said, well, Dad, it was easy. The oil light was on. Now, folks, this was an 88 model Acura Integra. It didn't have an oil warning light per se like we have today with so many percentages left in your oil, change your oil. The only reason the oil light was on that car is because it was out of oil. True story. Which proves how tough those cars were, because there was not enough oil to make pressure, and that oil light comes on typically 4 to 8 pounds, somewhere in there. So you get below 8 psi of pressure in an oil pressure, all you're doing is asking for that engine to seize, and lo and behold, it was okay. It was really okay. So I dodged a bullet there. I've actually had cars in the shop. I can remember another customer, and I won't mention who it was, but another local customer that had a big Lincoln and brought the car in, and we serviced it. And part of the service, of course, was an inspection, which is what we do, and rotate the tires, which is what we do, and, of course, change the oil. Well, we didn't have to change the oil. We unscrewed the plug from the pan, and, I don't know, a cup ran out. A cup of oil. Now, this is a 460 cubic inch Lincoln. And a cup of oil ran out of this car, and that was it. And we said, well, maybe there's something blocking the oil, and that does happen when oil thickens and turns into that yuck. And you push a screwdriver up the hole, and it made no difference because there was no oil in this vehicle. And that engine held 5 quarts of oil, and not only would it not touch the stick, but only a cup or so ran out. I don't know what kept that engine from crashing. So oil is cheap. For as much as crude costs, oil for your engine is cheap when compared to the price of an engine overhaul. And just how low, and a good question, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, I think it's universally accepted that when an engine is overfilled, oh, that's terrible, it's terrible. And really, it's really not that terrible, although we always err in our services to leaving the oil level lower than the fill mark so that our customers won't be so worried if it's overfilled, because people are of the persuasion that if you overfill an engine, now I'm not going to say how much, that would be up to you. And 888 car clinic, hey, why don't you tell me how much you think too much would be? 888-227-2546. So the point is, for the most part, car owners think that when an engine is overfilled, it causes pressure in the crankcase and blows out all the seals. So which is not the case at all. You'd have to be probably Oh, gosh, I don't know because I've never seen an engine damaged from overfill. Now, I've seen engines damaged from too much mixture of water and oil in the crankcase. And you say, well, wait a minute, you're not supposed to have water in the crankcase. That's right. But in the case of a cracked block or intake manifold leak, some head gaskets, depending on the type of engine, when a head gasket blows, that means that the compression from the engine is pushed, instead of pushing the piston down, which it still does, it pushes the compression gases through the gasket into the water jacket. And so when you take the radiator cap off, you can see bubbles in the radiator cap. And then also we use a block tester, which is a little blue chemical that breathes the fumes off of the coolant. You don't draw the coolant, but you put this blue test liquid, the chemical, in a syringe, sort of like a turkey baster, and maybe put a couple of inches of the fluid in that, and then there's a bulb, like a turkey baster, on the top of this syringe, which is about, 6 or 8 inches long and 2 inches in diameter, clear plastic. And you don't draw the coolant up into the bulb, you put it on top of the coolant with a radiator cap off. And you have to be careful in doing that because normally the engines that you suspect of having a head gasket are overheating. It's why they came into the shop anyway. So you squeeze this bulb and it draws the fumes off of this hot water. And of course the fumes, if there's exhaust gas in those fumes, that blue liquid turns yellow. It'll turn green, then it'll turn yellow. And it's a valid test that we've used for years that can really determine if you got a head gasket, because you do not want to take an engine apart, dismantle it, unless you're for sure that there's a head gasket, because there could be a lot of things causing an overheating engine. And that could be anything from a thermostat to the radiator stopped up to a water pump, or to, and we've had this, a water pump impeller. And the pump is good, it doesn't leak, doesn't make any noise. The radiator seems hot, like it's working. The fan clutch is good on the car, or the electric fan's okay, but the engine overheats at different intervals, different times. Mostly, in this case that I'm going to cite, idling at a traffic light, which an engine doesn't make much heat idling. But that's when the RPM is slower than driving down the road, of course, and that's when the impeller that is bad on a water pump, that has eroded and goes away, doesn't really pump enough coolant, so the engine is not cooled. Then if you drive off, all of a sudden you turn more RPM, or you put it neutral and race the engine up, and it will, and you watch the gauge, and it will, you'll see it inch its way back to sort of normal, never back all the way to normal. Those are signs of an overheating engine that are very relevant. I mentioned the diesel engine, so I want to share the story with you because I personally have no less than 10 hours helping my ASE certified master technician, Johnny Bars, to pinpoint the problem. I don't know how many hours he has in it. I can tell you there's no way that we would ever be compensated for the hours in this vehicle. Here was the problem. It's a Ford diesel 6-liter. A 2003 model, and it came in because it was going down the road and boom, just died. So the truck was towed in. Well, the truck starter would not engage, so it wouldn't crank. Okay, it wouldn't crank, and so in trying to determine what was wrong with it, Johnny ran a bypass on the starter and the starter button and turned the key on and spun it over manually using a jumper. So in other words, we bypassed the ignition switch that turns the starter to crank. And it cranked and ran and then whoop, shut down. Now this was after several hours of diagnostics and in the process of trying to eliminate the real challenges and what was causing the problem. It led us back to the fuse box inside the truck. We checked the starter relay. We saw that we had voltage, power coming to the relay from the ignition switch. So when you turn the ignition switch to the crank position, it would light a test light. And we had power at the main components of the relay. Now, a relay is the part of a starter that connects the battery to the starter. And then there's a relay that sends power to the starter solenoid, and that was the relay. So the relay tested okay. It had voltage. Everything had voltage. Everything was as it's supposed to be, except the vehicle wouldn't crank. And lo and behold, the computer was the culprit. Well, it wasn't the culprit. The computer provided the ground for the relay. Well, and okay, it needs a PCM. Well, a PCM is $1,000. So how are you going to put, think about it. How are you going to put a $1,000 computer on a vehicle when you're not sure that's what's wrong with it? Because it had more signs than just the starter. So it was a long, drawn-out case. And when I come back, I'll take your calls at 888-227-2546, and I'll tell you what we found as a cause of this diesel not starting and not running. Don't touch your dial.
I am for the child who lives in motels, cars, and shelters. I am for him. The child who was finally put in foster care, a group home, where everything he owns is kept in a plastic garbage bag, as black as the tar heroin that killed his dad. I am for that child. So I am there for that child, to listen to him, to speak for him, to champion without compromise what's in his best interest. Because if I am, he will be half as likely to languish in foster care and that much more likely to find a safe, permanent home. That is the child I am for. I am a court-appointed special advocate volunteer. I am you.
Lift up a child's voice, a child's life. Get involved at casaforchildren.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes. Good morning, Car Clinic in Pensacola. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 25 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for over 47. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and the Torch Award for Ethics. And I'd be honored if you'd vote for my service shop Best in Pensacola. Here's how. Go to VIPPensacola.com, click on Best in Pensacola, look for the Services category, scroll to Automotive Repair Service, then click on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 3 easy steps. Go to VIP Pensacola, click on Best in Pensacola, look for Services category, scroll to Automotive Repair Service, then click on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'd appreciate your vote of confidence.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And thanks for riding along with me. I hope that your car is safe. I can't impress upon you enough how being proactive can save you from being broken down on the side of the road. To keep your car on the road is really what it's all about. I don't know how many times that you take your car into a service shop, and I just want to make this perfectly clear. Changing the oil and filter in your vehicle every 5,000 to 7,000 miles or every 3,000 miles is not what maintenance is all about. that is only one part, one function of all the many components in your automobile. An inspection of your vehicle, an annual inspection is important, but a biannual inspection, you've got to have that vehicle in a shop and take it for an inspection periodically, or you're just flirting with danger. And if you've got a car that's got 75,000 miles on it, it's a couple of years old, I can tell you you're going to have an issue even if you don't know it. And here's the problem. The check engine light doesn't have to be on for you to have an issue with a vehicle. There'll be a code stored in the vehicle without the check engine light coming on, and you won't know it until it's too late and you go for a trip. So before you hit the road like this summer coming up, I want to make sure that your vehicle is road trip ready, so you can have problems fixed before you go. A pre-trip vehicle checkup will help avoid this inconvenience and potential safety hazard. So let me just give you a couple of pointers here, and I'll go slowly enough so that you can jot this down. Check the filters and fluids, okay, as we said, including the engine oil. Well, that's easy, but antifreeze, windshield washer fluid, I just filled mine yesterday. It was totally out, and the light was on because we had a little mist recently. But your power steering, your brake, and your transmission fluid, and dirty air filter. So that's under the hood. Also, while you're there, or while your technician is there, check the hoses and belts and replace if they're cracked or brittle or frayed or loose or show signs of wear. Now, with a hose, if a radiator hose is soft and spongy, that's bad. If it's brittle and you squeeze the hose and you can feel something cracking on the inside, that's bad. That's electrolysis that has cracked the interior of the belt. And yet the hose could look, interior of the hose could look just fine. So you want to check the brake system too. You'll make sure that the battery connection's tight and clean and corrosion free. Now, these tips that I share with you are available at the carcare.org site. That's our partners, the carcare.org. So you check the tires, you check the pressure, you check the tread depth, check the engine to make sure that it has the right power. How do you know? Well, how does it run as compared to how it normally runs? And how many miles per gallon did this last tank or the last couple of tanks provide for you? So think about it and ask yourself, well, I got 250 miles out of that last tank. Normally I get 300 miles. So when that happens, I check every tank of my gas. In fact, I'm anal about that. And when I fill my car, I don't watch the gas gauge. I do 2 clicks off, and then I look at the miles that I have to empty and the miles that I've driven and the miles per gallon, although the in-town miles per gallon, you can trick those things to make them read plus or minus, and there's ways you can do that. The bottom line is I will guess how many gallons my car holds. And I just recently guessed, and I guessed 19.6, and it held 19.8. Now that's a lot of time-consuming times that I've spent guessing. But you know what? I know the condition of my car by knowing and testing gas mileage as I go. And if you're planning a summer road trip, it's important to remember that it's just not as simple as putting gas in the car and driving off. So our friends at the Car Care Council, Rich White is the executive director of the Car Care Council, and Rich says performing a thorough inspection of your vehicle before you leave will give you the peace of mind and help make your car adventure safer, your road adventure safer and more fun. And I could not agree more with Rich White. And for your information, you go to carcare.org and you can download tips and videos. You can even put in, and I've done this, your VIN and your miles you drive per year and your email, and the Car Care Council will send to you reminders automatically of when your car needs service. I see we have a call from Dennis. Let's take a call. Dennis, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Good morning. You're on the air, sir.
My name is actually Thomas.
Thomas.
Thank you.
Well, John Thielen's with us today, and so Dennis, no problem. Your name is Thomas, so welcome. What can we do for you?
Well, I've got two issues. I've got a 2004 Mercury Marauder, and when I'm driving along and I've got the air conditioner on, and this generally happens when the air conditioner's initially trying to cool down the interior automobile, the direction of the air will change. Instead of coming out of the front vents, it'll shift to coming toward the windshield,
yes,
where the defrost would happen, or blowing toward the floor where heat would happen.
Yes.
What I've done in the past is I'll just turn the system off for a minute, turn it back on, and it'll readjust. But this is happening more often. I understand there's some sort of control panel or circuit that controls this.
There are, Dennis. There are actuators, they're called, and let me give you a little history of why it's doing that. All cars will do that if the system fails. In other words, if the HVAC system of an automobile is healthy, it will air condition, and it will blow the air conditioner out the air conditioner vents. But if the system fails, which means that it has a vacuum leak or an actuator blend door that is defective, because the manufacturers have gotten away from using vacuum to control the blend doors. Now they use little motors that have little tiny, like little train motors inside with potentiometers to let and tell the system where the relevant position of that door is. In other words, if you have a blend door and you want to put it at a blend of heat and cool, then the air conditioning system has to know where that door is. And there's a motor that turns it, and then on the shaft that aligns that door, there's a little potentiometer that tells the computer, okay, I've got you 50% toward heat and, split between heat and air conditioner. Now, if you're driving a car in the South and your air conditioner or your HVAC system fails, certainly the air conditioner won't work. What will happen is the air will blow out the top or the bottom, which is what your car is doing. And if you're driving a car up north in a cold climate, and your system fails, you couldn't possibly drive the car because you'd freeze to death. I'm speaking North Dakota cold here. So the automobile manufacturers made the system so that when it fails, not if, but when it fails to the heating side. And that's why your system has failed, and that's why it blows out the bottom or the top, because the heat will always work, but the air conditioner must have a healthy system in order to work properly. So what you have, Thomas, what you have is one of those actuators, or in some cases there are two actuators, one on the left side and one on the right side on those cars that have both a driver's control and a passenger's control of the HVAC unit. And some of those units are really hard to get to, and some of those units are easier. Specifically a Toyota, as I remember, the passenger side, and I could have this backwards, the passenger side actuator, you take the glove compartment out and you can get to that passenger side actuator and take it off and put it back on, and then you have to reclock it all with using a computer. On the driver's side, you have to pull half the dash apart. Now, I could have that backwards, but the bottom line, that's what the problem is, Thomas, with your 04 Mercury. It is an actuator, and that actuator, I believe, is going to be an electrically driven motor, but can be tested when you take it to the shop to repair. It is not something that you can repair yourself. Any questions?
Yeah, it sounds more involved. I know it's definitely more than I want to get involved.
It's something that, it's a dash product. And you got to have someone that knows what he or she is doing there. But this is a common problem. It's not, not an erratic problem like this diesel that I had that I didn't tell what we found wrong with it. But anyway, take it to a local shop, and let me give you a website to go to, asashop.org. And if by going to asashop.org, you can put in your zip code, and you can find 3, 4, or 5 shops, and then from the convenience of your home, you can call and say, do you have someone who is familiar with the HVAC system of a Mercury? And so if somebody, and you can tell by the way they answer you if they are or not. I mean, that shouldn't be that difficult to find a shop that can repair it. But that's what you're going to have, the HVAC system, and it's going to be an actuator. And if your car were an older car, it would be something so simple as a vacuum leak or a vacuum hose that's off that feeds the system. But cars are way beyond that these days. Hey, thanks for your call, Thomas.
Okay. Can I squeeze a second question in?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
When I'm driving with casually accelerating, when I hit around 20 miles an hour, I guess the time that transmission normally shifts from first to second, the automobile stutters. And then 10, 15 miles later, it'll stutter again. Is this a transmission or a fuel problem?
Probably a misfire problem with coils or plugs. That's a common, a little like a fish nibble or a little hesitation or a murmur or under slight throttle. And we have seen time and time again spark plugs and coils that cause this problem. As a rule, the check engine light will come on if the coil is bad. But if you have worn out spark plugs, no, they'll just misfire. And if the cylinders misfire often enough and enough times, then the check engine light will ultimately come on. But that's something that can be tested. And let me give you the buzzword there for your buzzword of the day, folks. This is for you as well. You want to ask the shop to run a scan test and check fuel trim. You got it?
Fuel trim.
Fuel trim. If the fuel trim is more than 3% off, plus or minus, then you have some engine tune problems that can be diagnosed and tested in shop. Hey, thanks so much for your call, Thomas. Let's take another call from Mike. Mike, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us today.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, listen, how you doing?
I'm fine,
hey, listen,
thank you.
I'm as anal as you are on getting a car ready for a trip. And one thing is cleaning the windshield before you go. And you can use a spray cleaner, but it doesn't really get things done as well as a wet, damp sponge with some Bonami polishing powder. Put that on there and clean it off very carefully, and then rinse it off, and you'll see that the water just sheets down. Once you get that done, then dry it off and come back with some Rain-X and put on 2 applications of Rain-X, and then wipe that off with a slightly damp towel. Do that on your front windshield, your back windshield. If you're really anal, you do it on your sunroof, or you do it on all your windows and mirrors. And then when you're driving down the road, over 40 miles an hour just about, you won't even, and you get into a rainstorm, you won't even need your windshield wipers because the rain just sheets off so fast that you can see perfectly. But it also will make it much easier to get the bugs off when you go to a filling station on your trip, and the bugs will just wipe right off.
Well, you know what? That's a great tip, and I have used that for years. And folks, that is and Mike, thank you so much for calling in. That is a great tip, and you're right. The Rain-X is a great product. You do have to continue to apply Rain-X because it will wear off. And folks, Rain-X was actually used by the aeronautical industry and aircraft. That's where it really was initially made for. Because if you're flying, 500 miles an hour, I don't know that planes actually use windshield wipers. We did have a call, by the way, from Jane earlier and asked about wiper blades. So I'll go 2 ways here. One, if the blades on your car are new, and as Mike said, if you've cleaned your windshield, and by the way, you can use Bonami, you can use soft scrub as well, and you want to use a soft sponge. Do not use a sponge that has an abrasive on it, but you can use this abrasive Bonami or soft scrub to clean the windshield. Then you can use a regular paper towel and put isopropyl alcohol and stroke that rubber on the wiper blade, and that will remove any oil. You want to make sure that's done too
so you don't transfer any road grime back onto the windshield after you've cleaned it. And then last but not least, if you want the best wiper blade, I use on my car, and we use and sell in our shop, Bosch Icon blades. And Jane had asked earlier what I recommend. And Jane, that's the exact blade. Bosch created these blades, I don't know, several years ago. But they are, you can be assured, they are tested and last, and they do the job. Check it out at Bosch Auto Parts. Meanwhile, another great hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic coming up. Great information. I'll tell you about the diesel problem when I come back.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Father's Day is right around the corner, and our friends at Bosch want to know your SOS car story with Dad, like the craziest phone call you've received from your kids about their car troubles, or the craziest call you made to your dad about your car trouble. Email me at carstory@carclinicnetwork.com before Friday, June 15th. I'll give a $100 Visa to the author of my favorite story and announce the winner on Car Clinic on June 16. That's carstory@carclinicnetwork.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Good morning, folks, and welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So, for all you fathers out there, and that's right, Father's Day is coming up in June, our friends at Bosch want to know if you have an SOS story that will help us to celebrate your day, Father's Day. And in honor of Father's Day, we want to know what the craziest phone call that you've ever received from your kids about what?
their car problems. Very interesting, and I'm sure that you've all had our stories. I shared in the first hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, I shared my own story today about my daughter that called, and she was up the road a ways headed on the wrong side in the ditch. Luckily, no one was hurt, and the car wasn't hurt. So we dodged a bullet that night, that's for sure. And also, if you're not just a father, but if you're a daughter or a son, maybe you called. So here's the bottom line. I want to hear your car story. I've got a $100 Visa card for the winner, and you send it to carstory@carclinicnetwork.com. That's carstory@carclinicnetwork.com. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part this morning by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. You can learn more about their products and industry-leading application coverage where? At motorradusa.com. That's motorradusa.com. Your calls at 888 Car Clinic. When I come back, don't touch that dial. We recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of AGM batteries, and Joe touched on how vehicles have changed through the years and why this makes batteries with absorbed glass mat, or AGM, technology a smart choice. Let's hear from Joe.
One significant trend we see in today's vehicles are the increased electrical demands that are placed on that vehicle. So these range from features that improve the vehicle's emissions, such as start-stop vehicle applications, to comfort, convenience, and other safety features. An AGM battery is best suited to ensure that the needs of these different features are met. So if you think about it, 20 years ago, we did not have vehicles that drove autonomously or included heated seats or GPS systems or extensive infotainment systems. Our cars really have become our second home. So an AGM battery is really the best suited to ensure that your second home is working properly.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's cars, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com. Talking tunes! No, not the ones on your radio, the ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on another benefit associated with automotive tuning and efficiency. Let's hear how tuning your vehicle can lead to increased fuel economy.
Superchips tuning essentially increases your vehicle's timing. It allows the truck or the car, the SUV, Jeep to run in a higher gear, and it improves the process which we call atomization, which is essentially it turns bulk liquid into spray, and when you achieve this, you increase fuel pressure and you increase your fuel economy. So as a result, you can run the vehicle in a higher gear with advanced timing, and you get a more complete burn. We've done extensive road and dyno testing to validate these claims, and it really impacts the bottom line for the consumer with the Superchips Flashpack.
Find your perfect tune at superchips.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. John Teelan's in the house. John T. will take your calls at 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue and I will put you on the air. Gas prices, $2.87, folks. Gas prices in every region of the United States is higher this week than the same time last year, without exception. And it's as high as $3.40 on the West Coast. So it'll be interesting to see just how high it goes, and then we will see maybe a shift in the sales of new cars. It never fails. That never fails. The gas prices affect the type of cars that people buy. So it's going to be interesting to see how high the oil industry can push gas prices before losing ground again. Let's take a call from New York. Your call is at 888-227-2546. Brent, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir.
My question is on seat belts. I've got a 2015 Chrysler Town & Country, and here's my problem. The shoulder strap on this Town & Country, you can tighten the laps as tight as you want, but the shoulder strap, we had an incident. We drove up from Florida, and my wife fell asleep in the car, and we came upon a construction site, and I had an incident where I had to put on the brakes, and when I put on the brakes, she went forward, and the shoulder strap didn't lock.
Wow.
And she almost hit her head on the dash.
Wow.
And I was wondering, isn't there supposed to be a locking mechanism on the shoulder strap?
Absolutely. And Brent, to that end, there's a pendulum. There's a device inside the upper shoulder harness in the A pillar, or the B pillar rather, which is where that unit usually is, comes out of the B pillar there. There's a device there that recognizes the momentum of the vehicle and will automatically lock that shoulder strap. In fact, quite candidly, that's an aggravating situation for me, because as I go sort of down a hill to pull into my driveway, and as I use my left shoulder to reach up to my mirror to push the garage door open, I have to do that early on, because if I wait until I get near the driveway and step on the brake and try to reach up, my shoulder strap won't let me, because it's really aggravating at times. But I've learned to open my garage door earlier so that I don't have that shoulder strap. So I'm going to say for you, there's a way that I would test that. And what you should do is to go over to her seat belt and pull the belt, just sit in it and pull and strap yourself in, and then take the belt itself coming out of the across your chest and yank on it, and it should lock before you are able to pull it out. So you should try that, and you can compare that with yours.
Well, Bobby, my seat, I tried that on mine, and mine, I can go forward right to the steering wheel. Mine doesn't lock either.
Well, can you sit in the car? I probably haven't tried this. You should sit in the car and yank on that belt where it comes across your chest, and it should lock before you're able to pull it out.
Okay, and if it doesn't?
Well, then you replace the belt assembly with a new one. You don't fix those. We never service seat belts. You replace them, and we buy them from the OE. There's such a liability in airbags and seat belts. So I'm sure the aftermarket supplies that, but that's really not the only time that we have an issue with that. Is when the buckle usually doesn't work or something, but anymore the belts are so well made that that's just not an issue. But I can tell you, my friend, if your belts don't lock up, that's, as you know, that's dangerous, and she shouldn't have to worry about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Try that. Sit in the car and just reach up with your hand. I mean, sitting straight up and buckle the seat belt and what have you. You don't have to move the car. You do it in your driveway, and reach up and grab that seat belt and snatch it, and you should not be able to pull it. I mean, it's going to go 3 or 4 inches, but then it'll lock up, and it may be. This is not this is an unusual problem. It's not a normal problem.
Okay, because this is my third Town & Country, and I've never had this problem before.
Exactly.
And this is the first time that we experienced this. and we thought it very unusual.
Very, very unusual.
So, okay, well, we'll try that.
Yeah, please do, and let me know how that works for you, because again, you can't wait until a situation in an accident to determine if the belt works or not. You have to rely and know that the belt's going to work, just like an airbag. You have to know that that's going to work as well. And in your case, it appears to me that neither one of the belts are working. And I find that so unrealistic and so unusual. Maybe one in a million, but to have two in the same car, that does not make sense. So you make sure that you test it, and you can check another type vehicle, any other kind of vehicle, and you'll see that. What year is did you say your TNC was?
2015, Town and Country.
Well, that should be a no-brainer. Check it and let me know. I'm concerned about you.
Okay. I'll call you back.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 888-227-2546. Folks, you've heard me mention batteries, and you've heard me mention the batteries, the optimal batteries, and versus a flooded battery, and that's a glass mat battery, which is probably the best bang for the buck that you can buy when you need a battery for your car. And you consider all the accessories that are on automobiles. I mean, on my car alone, a navigation system, DVD player, and that's running all the time, chargers for my phone that's running all the time. My car has rear screens that run some of the time. Then I have start-stop systems. So all of the cars, the AGM battery is the only battery to go. The optimal battery, of course, comes to mind. And the optimal battery, why is it better? 99.99% pure lead. Optimal batteries last up to 3 times longer than a traditional flooded battery. Optimal battery, it's the ultimate power source. So you can learn more about that battery and any Optima glass battery at optimabatteries.com. That's optimabatteries.com. Okay, I mentioned earlier in today's broadcast about an SOS call to you, and so our friends at Bosch are really anxious to hear more about that. So if you have a car story, send it to me, and I'm going to be giving away a $100 Visa card, so you can use it wherever you please. We'll give that away June 16th. We have Father's Day coming up, so whether you are doing this for your father or if you're a father and you have a story, an SOS story, send it to me at carstory@carclinicnetwork.com. That's carstory@carclinicnetwork.com. I'd like to shift gears, and I'll invite you to call at 888-227-2546. I have information here about the future of electricity and little 5 lesser-known alternative energy sources. And this is from theguardian.com. And as you know, solar and wind are 2 important and familiar sources of renewable energy. But the list of promising and widely used alternative energy is growing. Ocean power. When you think about it, the rhythmic and powerful movements of the ocean current and waves. And that's a way that you can take the currents and the movement of the ocean waves and generate the power. You know, quite candidly, this is nothing new. The downside is running that power and capturing it offshore and sending it to the shore through huge cables. So yeah, there has to be an infrastructure, but that's one source. Biomass. Biomass power actually accounts for 12% of our country's renewable energy generation. And Sweden, for example, relies on biomass for 30% of its energy, most of which goes to heat homes and businesses and operates factories. So there are 3 other fuel cells. Fuel cells produce energy through chemical reactions that combine hydrogen with oxygen. And those are known ways to produce energy. And then we have geothermal but geothermal only makes up about 3% of the country's renewable energy. And last, hydropower, which is one of the oldest sources of electricity in human history and used by every state in the nation. Hydropower. Your calls at 888 when I come back.
O'Reilly. Keep your windshield clean with Bosch Pure Vision wiper blades. Buy one and get one free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Bosch Pure Vision wiper blades install in one easy step, and Bosch's Quiet Glide finish ensures clear vision in any weather. Bosch Pure Vision wiper blades. Buy one, get one free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Your vehicle a little sluggish, throwing trouble codes? Take action with Berryman B12's Chem Tool Fuel Additive. Berryman B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system that help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. Greg has 4 Chevrolet Astro vans, all of which have over 300,000 miles. He uses Berryman B12 Chem Tool, and according to Greg, it is a fantastic product. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com. Folks, cold winters can cause batteries to lose their cold cranking amps and ability to start a vehicle. Make sure you have your battery tested and, if needed, replaced with an AGM. AGM batteries maintain more charge over time, better suited for start-stop systems, and if your battery tests low, make sure you check the alternator as well. An extreme cold followed by extreme heat can diminish battery life. Frequently jump-starting your battery or letting a vehicle just sit idle for days at a time can also slowly reduce your battery's power and effectiveness, risking a dead battery. The Bosch S6 High Performance AGM battery is more resilient to the constant demands of start-stop systems and vehicles with high electronic demands. If you're like me, always charging multiple devices, listening to the radio, enjoying all the technology and electronics in your vehicle, upgrading your battery to a Bosch AGM unit is a must-do to keep your vehicle running at its best and ensure you have battery power, always. To find an AGM battery for your vehicle, go to BoschAutoParts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. John Thielen's in the house today. He'll take your calls at 888-227-2546 and put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. So earlier I mentioned that we had in our shop, the vehicle's still here, by the way, after we did get it running and kept it running, it's now overheating, so we've learned that it needs a radiator. How do we know? Because you can actually use an infrared gun and aim it and get a temperature of the radiator, and half the radiator is sort of lukewarm and the other half is hot. So we know that it's not circulating coolant. But here's a vehicle, think about this, for all of you folks that are car people that might consider what could cause a car not to crank, a diesel, not to crank, the starter would not engage. And then if you turn the key on and bypass the starter, and then it would light off and run, but after it ran for 2.5 seconds, it would blow a fuse and die. And it was an all-day sucker for us, and then some. Some probably, I guess combined, Johnny and I had 30 hours of time in this vehicle. The customer paid 5 hours. We had 30 hours in this vehicle. It's one of those labors of love, if you will, but it's one of those things that in the business you have to do what you have to do, and this is a regular customer of ours. So here was what was wrong with that vehicle. It would not crank, and even if we turned the key on, replace the fuse, that would blow and bypass the ignition switch to start the diesel, it would run and blow the fuse and shut off. And there were 5 different components. There's a injector control pressure regulator that was supplied voltage from this fuse, an EGR valve supplied voltage, several other devices on a glow plug relay, and a FICA module, which is the fuel injection control assembly. Anyway, all of those units, and we unplugged all of those units, and this vehicle still would blow the fuse. You want to know what we did to fix this car, this truck? We put an electric clutch fan on it, which has nothing to do with the crank of this engine and has nothing to do with the running of this engine, we thought. So I just wanted to share that with you because it just proves that as long as I've been in the business, we still learn something. And literally, this vehicle, we could replace this fuse, and Johnny unplugged the connector to the clutch fan, and it would crank and run. And then he plugged it back in, and it would not crank. And yet, in our due diligence and our hours and hours of chasing electrical circuits, we had like 40 pages printed of electrical circuits for that computer. None of those components were connected, we thought, to the computer, and certainly the circuitry for the fan clutch, electric fan clutch on this Ford diesel showed no wiring connection whatsoever to any of the systems that were blowing the fuse. So when you've got a little electrical challenge with your vehicle, trust me, you never know what it's going to be until you get to the other side of the repair. Let's take a call from Paul. Paul, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for calling.
Hello, Bobby.
Morning, sir.
I had a 2001 Cadillac STS. You helped me with another problem once before.
Okay.
And it was snapping when you put it in gear. Okay, now it has 100,000 on it, by the way.
Okay.
And what it does is when you start it up cold, you put it in reverse, it pretty, immediately back it out of the driveway, and it'll snap into gear, and I mean snap. So anyway, you put it into neutral, or you put it in drive and go forward a little bit, and then put it back in neutral, go forward a few inches more, then put it in reverse, and it's okay. What in the heck's going on?
Well, number one, all automatic transmissions have control line pressure, just like your blood pressure. And as you drive and put it in gear, it gently increases the pressure and applies the clutch so that it moves the vehicle. However, as you drive the vehicle, depending on the load or your driver demand, which is your foot, then that transmission has to increase pressure. For instance, if you were accelerating onto an on-ramp and you wanted to get up to speed, which you have to do to merge with traffic, then that transmission is under more duress, and so the pressure required to engage clutch 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, as it upshifts, is higher. Now, let's say that your vehicle, your transmission clutch control module, which is a transmission module, thinks that you're accelerating. And so it says, hey, I better boost the oil pressure on the transmission. And as a result, when you put it into reverse, it, bam, because it thinks that you're accelerating and you're not. So now that's a scenario that's possible, Paul, if you have an electric control issue like a solenoid in the transmission or a throttle position switch that would make the transmission think that your foot was depressing halfway down. And think about it this way. I'll simplify it for you. Let's say that you put your arm down to your side, and let's say that I ask you to bring your arm up from your down with your side up to 90 degrees from your body. Let's call that 5 hours of movement, but it's about roughly 5 hours of movement, or 6. Okay, and I'm going to give you 6 volts. So for every volt, you move a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and by the time you get to 6 volts, you've got your arm all the way up. So therefore, if I send you 6 volts and you only use 1 volt and you send me back 5, I know that your arm is 1 hour away from your body. You see where I'm going there?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so if the hour or if the sensor is bad, I could send the sensor 6 hours, or the transmission module could send it, or let's just say the throttle position sensor could send 6 hours to the transmission module, and the transmission, but it really is only sending 1 hour, because you're not depressing the accelerator, but 1 hour's worth. You see where I'm going? It's called, in our industry, it's called driver demand. And what we do when we test these circuits, we check the physical pressure in your transmission, and then we check the directive pressure, which is the electronic signaling to the computer. And we can read that with our, not a scan tool. You can go to any parts store and they put a scan tool and say, oh, you got a bad oxygen sensor. I mean, let me tell you, I don't know how many oxygen sensors have been replaced that were shown to have a code, but that's not what the problem was at all. It was the oxygen sensor was being thrown out of its window of operation by a too rich or too lean injector, by a stopped up injector, or by a loose connection. Who knows? But the bottom line, the real scan tools of the world, which are our computerized programmed scan tools that can cost as much as $10,000 a piece, and $5,000 is the normal, plus $1,500 a year just for the software upgrade. Those devices that we use not only can read the codes, we get into the architecture of the software. And I'll give you an example. We can hook our laptop to like a Mercedes that has its air ride, and out of the car, make that Mercedes do a dance. Left fender comes up, comes back down, left rear comes up, comes back down, and we can make it oscillate. Just like you see these low riders doing, we can do that electronically by remote control, because we can activate the systems on the car. So for your Cadillac, what we would do, and any shop would do, is we would run pressure tests on the transmission, and you say, now let's put that behind us. Let's say, okay, well, why then do I put it in gear and drive and forward, and then it's okay going into reverse? And therein lies the concern that I have, because you, without touching the accelerator, you really haven't changed the electrical input, but you have changed the mechanical flow and clutch application in the transmission. So you could have a clutch pack in the transmission that is leaking, and you put it in gear and it leaks, and all of a sudden, because of a seal, is bypassing. And let me simplify that for everybody. Not to get technical, but a transmission is driven by rubber bands, by rubber seals. And you think of a syringe that you put medicine in your body with, and you just take your thumb and depress the plunger, right? Well, if the piston has a seal leaking, some of the medicine would go in your body, but some of the medicine would come out the wrong end where your thumb is, because it bypassed. Same thing is true for transmission. Automatic transmissions have real gears, real clutches, and they only use hydraulic applicators to force those clutches together. And the way they do that is they put a drum, and they put a plate in the drum. The plate has a rubber O-ring around it, and if that's old and tired and has 100,000 miles on it, so the first thing you would do is you would change the fluid in the transmission, and I would recommend the use of a synthetic fluid that would help to, the synthetic lubricant superior to a standard, Now, to find a shop that is willing to do that, you would have some shops that say, oh, you've got 100,000 miles, you've never changed the fluid. We're not going to do that because you can cause leaks. Who cares about that? If you've got a challenge with your vehicle, something needs to be performed. Some service needs to be performed to address that issue because it is not going to fix itself. Any questions?
I think that's good information. So I go to a qualified transmission service shop, right?
Sure. Well, yes, or you can go to any shop that uses a machine that evacuates the old fluid and reinstalls new fluid without even opening the system other than the cooler lines. We use machines like that. Most of your shops have new machines, and those machines with the engine running will use the normal flow of transmission fluid going to the radiator to be cooled to extract the old fluid while the machine pushes the new fluid in. And you can know that you're going to get at least 95% of the old fluid out. And if your fluid is not that bad, you do not have to change the filter. Got a hard break here. Thanks for your call, Paul. I'll be back after the break. Don't touch your dial. Good morning, Car Clinic listeners nationwide. I've been talking with you about your automobiles for over 25 years now, and I've been servicing vehicles here in my own automotive service shop for over 47. We've won Best Automotive Service Shop, Best Oil Change, and Best Reputation in Automotive Service, and the Torch Award for Ethics. And I'd be honored if you'd vote for my service shop, Best in Pensacola. Here's how. Go to VIPPensacola.com, click on Best in Pensacola, look for the Services category, scroll to Automotive Repair Service, then click on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. 3 easy steps. Go to VIP Pensacola, click on Best in Pensacola, look for Services category, scroll to Automotive Repair Service, then click on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'd appreciate your vote of confidence.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Love to hear your calls at 888-227-2546. John Thielen will take your call, put you in the queue, and then, of course, I will put you on the air. Several years ago, I created for a local ABC television affiliate, WEAR TV, which is our station, along the Gulf Coast, an overview of how to prepare your car when you're not sure if anything's wrong with it. And we called it Bob TLC, B-O-B TLC, like some tender loving care from Bob. I don't like to be called Bob, but here's the bottom line. The Bob, B-O-B TLC, the B stands for battery. Folks, if your battery's 4 years old, replace it. I know that may be premature. I actually got 7 years out of the little smart car until one day I said, oh my gosh, my wife's going to be stranded because it just ran and ran and ran. So we replaced it, and we tested the battery. It came out of that vehicle, and it tested bad. And we put a Johnson Controls battery in it, actually a power frame battery with a power frame grid technology made by Johnson Controls, so that I wouldn't have to really worry about it. So if your battery's 4 years old, replace it regardless of the age of your battery. Have it tested and cleaned and serviced, and make sure the cables are clean. All batteries over time will corrode, and that's the terminals. And so you can have a healthy car and a healthy battery, but if the terminals are corroded, that will put you down. That's a B-O-B. The O stands for oil. Change the oil and filter. I say every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, using the factory viscosity year-round. If it calls for 0.20, put 0.20 in it. And synthetic would be my choice, but there are a lot of conventional oils out there that are great. In today's engines that have tiny orifices in their cylinder deactivation solenoids and cam phasers, those are activation devices that use oil pressure to advance or retard the camshaft. You better have clean oil because they are small orifices. So today, the cleanliness of oil is more important than it was 10 years ago. As great as engines are, the tolerances are tighter. So you better not have debris that's circulating through the engine. So BOB, battery, oil. And the other B for BOB is belts. You inspect the drive belts for cracks, and when the engine's off, just look at the belt, the serpentine belt, and turn it 180 degrees with your thumb and forefinger and look for cracks. If you see cracks, replace the belt. Now, having said that, the rubber and the formula for the belts have changed, so cracks aren't as prevalent as they once were. So we have in our shop this little Mickey Mouse tool. It's a little plastic tool that has teeth in it that match the teeth of a serrated belt. And you just put it in there and you see if the belt's worn, because the belt will look perfectly healthy, but it will be worn like tread on a tire. The tread on the belt will be worn. So that's the BOB, belts, battery, oil, and belts. And I'll get to the TLC after taking a call from Diane in Texas. Diane, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hello, Bobby.
Hi.
Love your show.
Thank you. What can I do for you?
This is my question. Is I just got back in from Austin, Texas, out of town for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I was able to start my truck. When I got it to where my horse is in White House, I couldn't get the key to turn over. It wouldn't even turn. So I had to leave it. And I'm trying to figure out what could be causing that problem.
What kind of car is it?
It's a Ford Ranger 96.
And so the challenge is that you put the key, insert the key into the cylinder, but you can't physically turn the cylinder.
Right. And I had a friend get in the car, get in the truck, and he started kind of yanking on the steering wheel and trying to turn it.
Yeah.
Now, that's kind of a lot.
Well, yes, that will happen. And so here's what I would suggest. Number one, do you have another key? A spare key?
I did, but I'm trying to locate it. I'm trying to think if I should have a locksmith go out to.
Well, it's probably
that cost.
Probably that's the simplest thing, Diane, for you to do. And here's why. Number one, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but you know the steering wheel locks. So you turn, and if you've got the steering wheel in a turn position, of course you have power steering, and then you turn the vehicle off, then that power steering goes away, and the pressure that it took to hold the wheel is against the locking pin in the ignition in the lock cylinder.
Okay.
And so what you have to do is you have to, with a good key and a good cylinder, but it won't turn, you have to put some turning force on that. At the same time, take your other hand while you're trying to turn the ignition key cylinder and move the steering wheel hard to the right or hard to the left. Jostle it back and at the same time. One either right or left, and if it's locked to the right and you push it to the right, it's going to take the pressure off the pin and the key will turn. A locksmith or a technician, this is the no-brainer. But here's what I would suggest. If you are going to call a technician, I think that it's probably would be less expensive for you to take your key, if you can't find the spare, and have a spare key made, and it may just be that key is worn out.
Okay.
So, but by all means, the least expensive thing would be to call a locksmith. I'll tell you, on occasion, when we have an issue like that, they've saved our clients a lot of money and saved us a lot of trouble. They know the magic, and I'll tell you something else too, Diane. Locksmiths have codes to cars today that we in the repair industry do not have, because they are licensed to go open locked cars and we are not. And people don't even think about that, but that is a truism, and they have to be licensed and bonded, and in order to get that license. And so I think it's locksmith time for you. Where do you live in Texas?
I live in Tyler, Texas.
Tyler. Well, great station there. Hey, thanks so much for your call, and you heard me mention about the car story. So June 16th, I'm going to give away a $100 Visa card. I'd love to have a story from you on maybe your dad saved you one day with a car story. You can send that to carstory@carclinicnetwork.com. Think about it. If you have a story, send it to me.
I love your show. I found myself watching it all the time.
You made my day. You made my day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
There you go. Just couldn't get you better than that. 888-227-2546. We're going to go to Dan, but before we do, the TLC, and I'll make this really quick, tires, pressure. For every 10-degree drop in temperature, you lose a PSI. You never get it back. Even if it's hot summertime. Tires don't make air. They just don't. Racing tires make air. Street tires, like we drive on the highway, do not make air. So if you got a vehicle that calls, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I had an email or two this week from someone that said, my car has a cost for 32, what should I run in it? I put 34. Why? Because if you check your tires once a month, which I doubt you do, if you check your tires often, you'll see that they're always low. So if you add a couple of PSI to what's on the door jamb, not what's on the tire sidewall, but on the door jamb, then most of the time your tires will be within range. If you only put what it calls for, then it can only be lower than what it calls for. So if you add a couple of PSI, it gives you a 6-week or 2-month forgiveness. And that's really why I recommend that. Tires, and then check all the lights to be safe and to be seen, including your backup lights and your tag light. And then the last is coolant. C, Bob, B-O-B, T-L-C. The C is for coolant. Antifreeze stops freeze up in the winter. That same liquid, which is coolant, help prevent overheating in the summer, and they're both the same liquid. So there's your Bob TLC. You can find that actually on Google. If you'll Google Bob TLC, you'll find that in a video form. Let's go to Nebraska and take a call from Jim, or take a call from Dan. Dan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, Bobby, great show.
Thank you.
Lots of good information.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Hopefully kind of a simple question. I'm here in Pensacola, Florida, local to you, and
okay.
was just wondering, I have a 2016 Dodge Charger Hellcat, and I was wanting to do a performance tune to it. Can I do that without voiding my warranty?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay.
And in fact, our general manager's father has a 15 F-150, and we put a program in it, and we were both amazed. And I'll tell you, Dan, At no time do I promote or endorse a product until I test that product. And the beauty of that is I'm in the business, so I know what works. And I don't know everything, and I don't know a lot of answers to questions. And in fact, one of my favorite answers is to say I don't know. But I will tell you, there's horsepower on the table that you're leaving there. And to that end, a friend of mine had a Hellcat modified to produce almost 1,200 horsepower, and I ordered some E90 114 octane racing fuel from Jay Berry at Ignite Racing in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I've still got some of that here. It's 114 E90 octane, and when the car was shipped here, it came in, and we put the E90 in it, and I had at that time a drum of the fuel, and he burned it all up, and he sold the car. But the by all means, you can upgrade that software and change the shift timing, and change the RPM limiter, or eliminate it, or not eliminate it, but elevate it, and a whole list of
a plethora of things. Okay, so your shop can do that, right?
We can do that, or you can do it yourself. You can order this.
Oh, really? I don't know if I'm that smart, but
this is like hey, if you got a smart car there, anyway. But if you go to diablosport.com and check out what that, and I'll help you in any way that you need me to help you. But you can buy the unit yourself, and if you're not comfortable putting in, we'll be glad to program it for you. It takes all of 6 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Diablo Sport.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay, my friend.
Well, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Thanks for your call. Now let's go to Nebraska and take a call from Jim. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I've spoken to you before about a Chevrolet Volt, 2017 Chevrolet.
About the gas mileage?
The EV mileage, the electric battery mileage.
Right. Yeah, but about the mileage on the vehicle.
Right. Well, they didn't do anything for me. All they said to me was the car was running correctly, and they closed my complaint.
Yeah.
They just said goodbye.
Wow.
But that isn't really why I called.
Okay. Okay.
Same car. 95 to 99% of my mileage is electric vehicle mileage off the battery.
Yes.
They told me that when my there's the computer tells you when to get your oil changed.
Yes.
By percentage.
Right.
They said when I have 25% life left on my oil to bring it in and change the oil.
Mm-hmm.
Free oil change.
Okay.
When I took it in, the technician, the service manager said, well, we don't trust those. What about it? I've got 11,000 miles, and I would say 90 to 95% of my mileage is EV. So I'm not running the electric motor. The gasoline motor.
Well, so you don't really know how many miles, hours are on the engine, right?
Right.
And what is the percentage showing on your oil now?
Since I had it changed, it's back up to 97.
Oh, I didn't know you changed it. I thought it was a question of should you
I changed it. I changed it at 30%.
Okay, well, I can make this really simple, Jim. I would follow the direction of the service manager because what he's telling you is a fact. And I do not believe in the mileage. The percentage of oil life left is based on algorithms and has nothing to do with, can't say it has nothing to do, but it's not a real time. It depends on, and it uses algorithms based on engine temperature, throttle position, RPM, and all those things. So in your case, it's a little different because you've got a pony motor there, more or less, that charges the battery that runs the vehicle that pushes the electrical motors. But nonetheless, it's still a throttled engine, an internal combustion engine that has byproducts, and so oil is so much cheaper than engines to be sure and to be safe, and it's a free shot. So by all means, I say change it earlier than later, because time is really a killer. And I'll tell you something else too. Condensation is really bad with oil. You got it?
Well, Yeah, well, yes and no. On the Volt, the way I drive, 95% of the time the gasoline engine doesn't even start.
Right.
Because my trips are like 50 miles round trip. And the battery power, which you get from the house,
right,
takes care of that.
Well, again, my short answer is, and I am short because I'm short of time, not to cut you off. You need to call me earlier next week if you would. My answer is to follow the advice of the service manager at the dealership, because they're in that fray every day and they want to do what's right for you. And especially if he's saying this is what I do and I don't agree with General Motors, tells me he's a straight up guy. Not that he's right or they're wrong, but he's experienced. And folks, same time next week, call me and I'll help you with your car challenges. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Father's Day is right around the corner, and our friends at Bosch want to know your SOS car story with Dad. Like, what's the last thing you had to help your children with in regard to their cars, or the last thing you had to ask your dad for help? Email me at carstory@carclinicnetwork.com before Friday, June 15th. I'll give a $100 Visa to the author of my favorite story and announce the winner on Car Clinic June 16th. That's carstory@carclinicnetwork.com.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Road.